Shoot, folks, it is just a gorgeous day. Today, we're talking all about postcards. That's right, these nice little pieces of information from the past, ways of communicating, but also chock full of really interesting stuff like advertising, photographs, and whatnot. I'm going to talk about the reasons I buy certain kinds, the values that they can bring, and other things that make them valuable too, like cancellations, the stamps, and more. Let's jump into it.
A one and a two and Rusty the reseller, he'll sell you the shirt off his back. Well, I have done it.
Howdy, folks. Let's get right into it. These are some postcards that I came across yesterday. In that video you saw where I found all those postcards, I went through probably between 4,000 and 5,000 cards yesterday, guys. I go through cards all the time. I've searched through hundreds of thousands of cards. I sell tens of thousands of cards on eBay. And I'm going to show you a variety of ones that I have hand-picked out, and I'll talk about why I got them and why I think that they're valuable and why they're worth me buying to resell. This one says lunch at Haddam, Connecticut. This is what they call a real picture postcard. You can see that shine there. It shows the photographic, what went through that process, basically. This is a photograph from probably the teens into the early 1920s of just some friends out having a little picnic. You can see they've got their little table set up, tablecloth, and all their stuff. You don't find these showing this type of a scene all that often, and that's why I picked this up. There are different prices on this. This is not what I paid, but all of these I paid between $1 and $3 for, all right? All of these I'm going to show you, I believe that they are $8, $10, or more value that I can sell them for, okay? Here's the next one. This is also a real picture postcard. Someone who just took a picture of a man sitting in his in a home, looking at a book, reading a book. And you can see what's kind of cool about this is that you can see the old rug here, the old dress, and then the walls. You can see the pictures that are on the wall and kind of the aesthetics and how they had this room kind of set up. I think that's a cool image, and you can see the frame out here of where they took that picture. Here's one of a Santa Claus. Now, if he was wearing blue or purple, this would be a more valuable card, but I don't see this particular card all that often. I've gone through a ton. I've sold thousands of Santa Claus postcards as well, but this is one I don't come across all that much. It is embossed, which means it has been pressed on a printing press, and you can see kind of that. You can feel it in your hand here. Really cool. This is definitely one from Germany. In fact, it says printed in Germany. A lot of these old holiday and greeting cards were made in Germany. Moving on here, here's one. You can see that this is Richard Nixon. It is a postcard. You can even see the background, how this bled through. It was such a dark color ink, but it has not even been posted. So people who collect political postcards or things would be interested in that. Here is one that would be more of considered a litho. So it is not a real photograph, but it is based off of a photograph or a picture, and it has been done in a lithographic style here, whether that's a process more like in the style. It says Indian Shore, Lake George, Fremont, Indiana. So the good thing about this photo is it's not just a picture of a scene, but we have context here. We know where it's from, and people who collect postcards from this particular area of Indiana or Indiana in general, or lithograph cards, old antique ones that have these white borders like the bottom here. This one's interesting because it's a couple of women dressed up in dresses and hats, and they're out on this tree that's out over kind of a beach scene here. 1913. It has been posted and canceled, and it has a nice little message on the back as well. Now, this is a card that would be called, instead of calling it a postcard, you'd actually call it a postal card. I don't actually remember the date and when that switched, but the original cards that people used were called postal cards, and they were pre-posted. You can see there's no stuck stamp on here. The postage has already been printed on it. It says 1 cent, and they would pay for this card and the postage included. On these cards, you only have an address typically, and on the back, it is not divided. So this card, came from pre you know, 1907, because that was about when they actually started dividing the postcards. Up here you can see, at first glance, it looks like 1855. If this were 1855, this would be worth tens of thousands of dollars, because about the earliest postcard, I think, is from the 1860s. But if you look real close, 1885, December 26th, 1885, still a very, very old postal card, and there are people who collect those postal cards specifically. Here's another lithograph card, the Griswold. It's an Eastern Point, Groton, Connecticut, opened on June 23rd of 1906, and this card looks like it's from the teens. Let's see. And it is from 1906. So, what's really cool about this card, aside from the fact that it has some very interesting multiple cancellations on it, an interesting stamp, but the you know, the location and the date, 1906, and that this was opened in 1906. So this card was made the year that this building was opened, and this is clearly a brand new building. Who knows if anyone has even stayed there yet? This may have been a promotional card for this particular establishment. Here's another antique card, and again, we see where this is from. It's the inside view of Oak Park in Sacramento, California. Anytime you can find pictures of locations in very highly populated areas today, back before they were highly populated, those can definitely go for a decent amount of money. This has not actually been used, but again, we have information. Anytime a card has it printed or written on someplace on the back or somewhere where you have information, it assists you, it empowers you to make a really good title so you can find that perfect buyer out there. Again, Sutter's Fort, Sacramento, California. These particular kinds that you're looking at here were made in duplicates. They were made probably as souvenir cards of particular locations. I've never been to this particular location, but again, that one hasn't been used. One interesting thing about this card, you can see if I pull it down, the dark color here and the light on the corners, this is an indication that this was in a scrapbook or, you know, that was holding postcards at one time. The lighter color down here is the fact that this was hidden underneath of some tabs like this in an old scrapbook and has since been removed. Another lithographic card here, 4th Street, looking east in Marion, Indiana. These street views, folks, can be highly valuable. People collect views from the city that they were born in, grew up in, or cities of interest. The cool thing about this card is you've got all of these carriages, buggies, and you've got these really old vehicles over here as well. And if you got out a magnifying glass or a loop, you could actually look at the time. You could look at the names of the companies and these storefronts. There's some really cool stuff. Look up here, the painted advertisements of certain stores or companies on the side. And this says Iroquois, or Iroquois. That's really cool. Can't quite see the date. I think it's 1909 on here. It's a cool little card there. I'm sure there's a buyer for that. Here's another one, a view of a particular building. It says Redmen's Hall in East Sebago, maybe? Really kind of interesting old building here. Yeah, look at that, 1908. Again, so 1908, this card had to have been produced in 1907 or earlier. It was not postmarked or used until 1908. But again, this is an undivided, so I know that it's 1907 or earlier. Another card here with these white borders, you know that they're older just from first look. This is like it says, does that say Bow Lake Dam, maybe? Is that New Hampshire, possibly? Yeah. And this is, it says who published it. Pictures of bridges and dams that maybe no longer exist can definitely be sought after by certain collectors. 1908 on this one. Again, we got this street view here. This is Main Street, north from High Street in Eckert, Indiana. Again, another Indiana. You can see the rail car line here going down the center of the street, which was very common at that time. You've got people walking around in their old clothing. July sale going on in this on this street here in whatever town. This is, it says in Eckerd, Indiana, another 1911. And these stamps, folks, you're going to find, these are the most common too that you're going to find on old vintage postcards from the 1920s and 1910s is this 1 cent Franklin stamp, okay? And then this 1 cent, this is also Franklin, I guess, turned to the left. Another one, the third and most common one, I'm wondering if I just have shown you. I'll show you when I get to it. It's one of Washington. But here we have, looks like some, these are, what it says is in the India series, Orphanage Well in India. So these are Indian women holding these pots up on their heads. Incredible balance, really cool old dress. This is a 1908 postcard. Just this view of generations past. Some people collect these. Here we have another lithographic card. Again, we got this white border. Whenever the image does not go all the way to the edge, that typically indicates an older card. Real picture postcards, a lot of times they will frame out the photograph portion in the center. Sometimes they have different types of frames around them of different shapes, fruits, or different kind of geometric shapes. This one, Main Street from 3rd, looking 4th in Mansfield, Ohio. So again, you got these rail line, the carriage car, and you can even see this carriage car down here, this trolley car down here. Really cool scene. You got the horse and buggy over here. You got people on the street. People who collect from this area would certainly be interested. Another 1908 card. Townsend Block, Booth Bay Harbor. You're maybe noticing so far in several of these a theme, and that is street views, buildings where we know exactly where the location was. In a lot of cases, we know not only the location, but we know the date. So we have interest in, we have a specific location. It's written where the location is, and we have information about it. That equips us to make a really good title to catch that person out there who's looking for that card. Silver Lake near Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Now, I'm in North Carolina, and I've been to Blowing Rock as well. It doesn't look like this anymore. I mean, definitely there's some water out there, but really cool. We got this, just a dash of color up here. We got that, somebody wrote the note on the front. This is in 1904. It looks like 1904. Anyways, really cool card. I love these old cards. Take a moment if you get a hold of some of these and read the messages. It is fascinating to know what was going on in the lives of these people. It's really interesting. We'll take a flying trip to, and then you were to write typically where you were going to. This was not used, and so they don't have that, but I got this honestly thinking I might send it to somebody. I do that from time to time. If I find an interesting or funny old card that didn't cost me much, I will send it to someone. You know, if I were to go out and buy a postcard today, a brand new one, or even a card, I'd spend anywhere from $4 to $8 on it. Well, I can get these cards for $1 or less a lot of times, and it's just more fun for a person to, first of all, getting something in their hand in the mail from someone else where they took the time to write it out. It means a lot, and then also to have an old card like that is pretty cool. Now we have another one of these street views here. This is Main Street in Decatur, Indiana. So I happen to come across a bunch of Indiana ones, and I'll probably list them all relatively at the same time so that if a person, and I'll put in the listing, check out the store for other vintage Indiana postcards. That way, if a person happens to come across one of these and is interested, maybe they'll come to the store and check out the other stuff that we're selling as well. May of 1912, this is what this street looked like. A little bit of damage up here. It was stuck to something, looks like, and they kind of ripped it off kind of in a hurry or didn't take a whole lot of effort. So who knows how much that'll go for. But now we got a P&R depot in Perkasie, Pennsylvania. A lot of times if you find a postcard that is of an old railway station or a post office or something like that, you should do a quick Google search to see if that place still exists. There are collectors out there who collect postcards of old locations like this that are no longer around because, it's just a historical piece of information here. People may not know that that was there anymore, and they want to preserve that. And here's a depot, really cool. It's not been used. It would be interesting if this had been used to see what the cancellation was like. Sometimes there are cancellations that indicate that the mail was processed in transit or at a postal service, so a post office or a railway station. So, you know, they get the mail and they might do it there before they take off, or while they're in the train car, while it's in transit, they'll be canceling these stamps. And there are people who collect just the cancellation, not just the content of the card, folks, but the cancellation itself. This one is for the Oral School for the Deaf in Scranton, Pennsylvania. People collect cards from old hospitals, asylums, and for various schools for certain populations, like this one. This one's a little bit interesting because, so 1925, you've got a stamp here that is, you know, somewhat common, but definitely not one of the more common ones. This is a Washington red 2-cent stamp. I mentioned a moment ago that there are Washington 1-cent stamps that are green, and those are pretty common to come across. Here we have, it says S. Anderson Street, looking north in Elwood, Indiana. Another one of these Indiana ones. I must have just real got excited, I guess, when I must have found a large lot of these street views of Indiana. We've got the dentist here. We've got the S10 store, whatever that is. We've got the drugstore, pretty common. Again, we've got the trolley line. A lot of these look similar from that era. It's Mother. 1960. So this is a 1913. Here's that 1-cent stamp, folks. The 1-cent Washington stamp. I'm going to put that up against the red 2-cent Washington stamp. These are more valuable because they're less common. At least in my experience, they're less common. Here we have one business section, Jefferson Street, Huntington, Indiana, another interesting. Look at this. They must have had this up. Maybe it was getting close to Christmas. Maybe it was 4th of July. But they got some streamers up here, possibly electricity running through that. I'm not exactly sure. But you do see they got this little, one little light there hanging down, which is kind of cool. Again, it's really fun to kind of look through and see what these streets used to look like. There are people who are business owners in these towns on these streets today who like to see what this area looked like, you know, in years past. Church Street in Peterborough. And so my guess is this is in the United Kingdom someplace. And again, we got like a couple of men with like a little walking cart there, and you got some of these cathedrals and stuff in the background. Peterborough, 1908, and you got a different, obviously you got a stamp from the United Kingdom there instead. All right, now we're going to get into a few that are not black and white. I bought this one because it's as you can see, it's an Easter card. It is embossed, and what you have is a little bunny and a rooster just kind of cuddling there on this little pole. This is, again, a very old one, 19-teens. And anytime you see cards that are greeting cards where animals are looking like or acting like human beings, doing things that people do, like cuddle with one another and hug, that would be considered what they call an anthropomorphic card. And there are people who collect just those types of cards as well. This one, it's kind of bizarre, kind of creepy. It's Best Gesundheit in Milwaukee. And he's got a stein here, a beer stein, and he's got some sort of a little pipe here. I wish you all the, quote, luck a human being can offer. Well, that's kind of you, sir. 1914, we got a nice little cancellation here as well. Kind of dark, but someone might find that interesting. Someone who maybe collects pipes, or someone who's into beer or old advertising might find that really interesting. Let's jump in here to this one. Happy birthday. Now, guys, I got this just because it's a pretty vibrant colored card. I hadn't seen this one before. You've got a bunch of boys. They're holding a bunch of beautiful flowers. It's a birthday card. It's heavily embossed. In fact, you can see that. I mean, it is very, very pressed in there. And I can't quite make out, it may be 1915, something like that. You got the stamp that's kind of folded over on itself. But it's a really kind of a pretty card. Wow, you can see that. See how that shimmers like that? I just think it's a nice looking card. I think I only paid about $1 for it, so I'm going to be fine there. But Early training. Anytime you find these humor cards that have to do with this time period, there were a lot of cards that were joking about the dynamic and relationship between men and women and animals with one another, but men and women particularly. Sometimes they've got involved children acting like adults. Sometimes, and in this case, you've got not super young children, but probably 8, 10, 12-year-olds. Early training. As the twigs incline, the tree will grow. And anyways, these gender stereotypes and kind of the play on relationships between men and women is a common theme that you find, and there's definitely a collector base for that. Here we go, another old, it's a lithograph, but it's based on an old photograph. This is the women's dormitories at the University of Chicago. And I don't believe that the women's dormitory looks like this anymore. But someone who has attended this college, maybe someone who works for this college, might be interested in this card. Hyde Park Station. Hyde Park being a park that still exists, I believe, in Chicago, 1903. It's a very old card, folks, just around the turn of the century there. Expect to drop in Wednesday the 23rd. We got this man with what looks to be a car that has flown off of the track here. Some women blowing in the wind. Got some kind of startled looks on their faces. I can understand why. 1909. This one's just an interesting look. I hadn't seen this card before. This is sort of like a mail out to let people know you're coming to visit them. Again, this is one of those anthropomorphic cards. We got this bunny rabbit, and it is driving this little car, driving little chicks around. Easter greetings, a greeting card from 1911. You're still seeing these interesting stamps here that I've been talking about. All right, the post office in Jamestown, New York. Now, I don't know. In Jamestown, New York, is this post office still being used? Is it the same one? Is it out of commission? I don't know. I need to do some research, but I got this just because I got it half off, so I got this for $1. Even though it's not postmarked or stamped, it does say 1913 on it, so that's roughly the time period. For a quick change of pace, folks, I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. If you ever come across postcards as you're looking at them and they don't seem all that interesting, it doesn't mean that you should immediately walk away. And here's why. I always go through postcards. I look at the content of them first. If there's one I'm particularly interested in, like one of these ones I just showed you, I will flip it over immediately and examine the back. But of all the ones, I'll go through an entire stack. And then when I'm finished, I don't move on. I actually turn the thing around and I go through them again. And what I'm looking for on the back the next time is interesting things that I think people might find valuable or interesting. A lot of these postcards, not a lot of them, but some of them will have unusual, rare items on the back of them. Sometimes they're strange stickers. Sometimes they are stamps. And in this case, what you're looking at right now, I believe it's Scott. Scott is the catalog for these stamps that kind of tells you what they are and prices them. I believe that this is called Scott 319, and it is a 2-cent Washington stamp that bears, it's in the emblem of a shield. And so they'll oftentimes call this a Washington shield stamp. Very, very uncommon. Okay, and someone correct me out there who's into the philately. I believe these were only produced for 1 year. Okay, and so there are not a ton of them that you'll find on postcards. For example, I probably went through 5,000 postcards yesterday, and I came across 2 of them out of 5,000. And these other 3 I found at other times, but I just pulled them out to show you. These stamps alone can be worth quite a bit more than a postcard, especially if you're getting a postcard for, say, $1 or $2. It's worth it, folks. You can sell these a lot of times without doing anything to them, and highlight the stamp. Or if you're so inclined, on ones that are maybe heavily damaged or you don't think would sell, you can put them in water and remove the stamp and then sell the stamp by itself. Here's one I came across this week. I was very excited to find because I've never found one on a postcard before. And it is, I believe that this is the Scott number 369. or $3.96, I can't remember. But this is an Abe Lincoln 2-cent stamp, and it says from 1809 to 1909. And so this was like a 1909 commemorative stamp. You can see that the cancellation represents 1909. But this stamp in like great condition can sell for, you know, $100 or more. And one that is canceled like this could still sell for $20, $40, $50. Okay, and I paid about $1.50 for this. Now, Indian Earthworks at Glen Elmira, New York. Somebody might want this card just for itself, but I think that the stamp is worth more than that. Always take a look to see what's going on the back. Maybe it's signed by somebody famous. Maybe there's a really rare cancellation that represents a place that it was canceled at that no longer exists. Maybe it was a post office or something that it has burned down or something like that. It's no longer there. Someone might be interested. Always take a look at the backs. This one is interesting. It's based on a sketch, Knox College for Lincoln, Lincoln-Douglas debate that occurred on October 7th, 1858. This has become a big deal, the Lincoln-Douglas debate. It's still used. That term is still used with debate in schools when kids are learning how to do that properly. It was a famous debate. You have, I don't know exactly when this card was made, obviously because it's not been used, but it is undivided. So I know it's prior to 1907. My guess is it is sometime between 1900 and 1907. Hadn't seen that one before. Le Chien du Saint Bernard. And so this is clearly not, it was not an American card, carte postale, and it says this is probably something made in, you know, France or Italy, possibly Germany or one of those countries over there. But the reason I got this was because of the animals, all of the St. Bernards. So animal cards have done really well for me, particularly different breeds of dog. And so to see a view of a bunch of these from a long time ago, there are people who collect just St. Bernard related things, and so that's why I got it. I have noticed a trend recently of postcards that involve flight, whether it be airplanes, hot air balloons, zeppelins, dirigibles, and the like, are selling really well. And so I took a flyer on this. I think it's a cool look. It's a Valentine card. There are people who collect those. My heart is now a big balloon with which we'll find the honeymoon. Again, kind of going back to a little bit ago when I was talking about the comedy or things having to do with romance, but then they're using children to play that out because that's cutesy, or at least it was at that time. You've got a pair of birds up flying together. You've got the kids together. And they're up in this hot air balloon. It's a bright colored card, and it's unused. It's in pretty darn good condition as well. So I think it'll sell pretty well for me. Here's to the love that lies in women's eyes and lies and lies and lies. Again, it's an attempt at humor about women having loose lips there, 1907. You know, this is kind of like that typical sketch of a woman from that Victorian era, the Gibson girls and such, if you've heard of that. It was a popularized kind of style of sketching women that had a lot to do with fashion in the time period. State Fair, Syracuse, New York. So a large fair here. We got multiple flags, so someone who likes patriotic things might like this. What does it say? Poultry Annex. Well, if you want to maybe go, play a couple of games and then head over for a chicken leg, you can do that. No one has used this one, so it's a good condition. I hope you get I hope you get the glad hand always. So it's like wishing someone luck. Someone has removed the stamp or it fell off at some point. We've got this flag here, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the 13 states flag cancellation here is interesting, 1910. I just thought it was an interesting picture and look. I've seen lots of cards where their two hands are coming in and they're shaking hands, but I've not seen this particular card. And for that reason, I went ahead and got it. Greetings from New York. Now, there's all kinds of greeting cards out there from different cities and states in the country. I hadn't seen one from New York that looked like this before. Not only, so this is not embossed, but it is, if you can tell, along the edge of these letters, you can see raised, there is some sort of a glue concoction with glitter. And so after this was printed, someone came in after it was printed, and they took and they outlined every letter with this kind of glittery thing. And this is not terribly uncommon. You find this, things that are hand tinted or hand designed or colored. They did something after the printing process. I love this because of this moon, which was kind of an early, like 1910 to 1920. And even in the 20s, you see a lot of, if there's studio photos with that crescent moon with a face on it in the background, I think that's kind of cool. Unused again. I looked on in eBay when I bought this. Now, there's a little damage. It's bent. You can see it's creased, which is not great. But I didn't see another one exactly like this, and I think that that's good news for me. I think it'll sell pretty well. This card here, as you can see, is of President Theodore Roosevelt. Big R for Roosevelt. There's his headshot in there, various buildings and things. I don't know what those have to do with him particularly. However, it's a nice card. You can see a little bit of discoloration in the center there, but it's pretty nice overall. Again, people who are interested in him as an individual, as presidents, and just in political history might be interested in this card. Here we have an interesting card, Two Good Hands to Hold. We got the artist's signature down here, Frank O'Neill. Looks like 1909. I play on words here. They're playing cards. They're holding hands. I like the really Art Nouveau look here of this top portion with the postcard. Those are really nice. And this says it's color gravure, and it's one in a series. So this is number 138 out of 2,461, and that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes when people buy cards, they're buying it because they're trying to complete a series. It's very difficult to know sometimes why people are buying certain cards, because there are so many different reasons, as you're hearing, and if you're familiar with these cards, you never quite know. That's a good thing about selling cards, though. There's lots of reasons why a person might want a particular card. This one right here is a real picture postcard of the top of a ship. This looks like some sort of, I'm not sure what type of ship. You can see many men up here on board on either side. I don't know what it's about, and there's no indication on the back. But I might want to get out like a loop, or a magnifying glass and look at that later, because it looks really interesting to me. Here's a nice one, another real photo card of a bunch of people out in heavy snow that has been plowed. It looks like there's something there, some sort of Grand Hotel. The Grand something Hotel. Oh, well, you can see it looks like almost another language there in the front. But you've got this gentleman and these two kids being pulled on an old sled. Really cool. Right here. Yep, this is, I don't know if this is Russian or what this is. But anyhow, cool card there. I think somebody will be interested in that with that old, kind of some of that content there. Here's an interesting one, folks. We have what looks to be a pre-prohibition real photo postcard here of a bunch of people. Just look at this crew having their drinks, their jugs of drink here. Looks like cans of beer, glasses, jugs, drinking right from the jug. Grandma's not having any of that. This lady here is giving a little wink as she's having a drink, and their jugs, and he's smoking his pipe. It is just a family affair here, just having a nice libation on an afternoon. What do we have here? Oh, well, it's a bunch of friends, it looks like men and women in swimming together. So sometimes you'll find these cards and it's just men together or just women together. In this case, real photograph, a little condition issues, some wrinkling and some stuff. But this large of a group of people out in the ocean or a lake, really kind of a cool looking card. I think somebody will be interested in that. Another very interesting card here. You've got a gentleman here with a Grolsch style bottle. That's the type that has the metal hinge that can cap it. And you've got these other men all kind of in robes of some kind. You've got one woman, and you've got looks like a decorated Christmas tree, a real tree. You've got some pictures in the background on the walls. I don't know if they're celebrating Christmas, but they look to be in some sort of an infirmary or a hospital or something. This is my guess is this is going to be like a World War I era. And 1914 it says, and it looks like it is from another country, somewhere in Europe there. I got this one. Well, if it was just the children, I probably would have passed it up. But there's two things going on here that I find, well, three things actually that I find interesting. Number one, you've got all these children with essentially the same, like Moe from the Three Stooges, that bowl haircut. Okay, put a bowl on their head and they cut the hair around it, and that was how they got the haircuts. This is Depression era, folks. This is all they could do. Then the other reason is you got this nice little dog here, a friend. They're all putting their hands on it. It's posing as well. And then down here, you've got an old sign of some kind. I don't know what that is for because it's only a partial, but it's interesting. Also on the background here on the door, there are these letters, and I don't know what those are for. So a lot of interesting things in that photograph, in my opinion. This one right here is a photograph of at least one man, and there have been a bunch of trees cut down. And if you zoom in here, you're going to see this gentleman standing right here in the center. And I have another one that looks similar to this, and you can actually see the handsaw, the big long handsaw that the gentleman used. But they are doing so. Oh, here's the other man right here. Look at him. He's hiding in the trees. There's one of them. He's got an axe in hand, if you can see that. Look at that. He's got his axe in his hand. And this gentleman is he's holding a saw. Look at that. He's holding a saw in his right hand, and it's down on. So someone's, taking a photo of these men at work. That's a cool photo right there. Here are a bunch of hogs, a bunch of pigs. Men out here raising these. He's feeding them slop. They're just getting in there and getting breakfast. Or lunch, not sure. But that's an interesting view, just a farmer's life. And here's another one just below it. I think these are from the same shot here. And there's a bunch of pigs here as well. Out on a nice farm, you got some chickens out in the background there. Just farming life. This is an interesting shot of an old piece of equipment. I don't know if this is a crane operator, possibly. It looks sort of like what a crane would be. You got all of these lines here. He's operating some kind of piece of large equipment, either way. There's a nice note here, but there's no postage or cancellation. Anyhow, I'll read that later and see what it says. This is fun. A little girl, and she is playing with her little dog. He's got a collar on. She's got a cute little dress on and a little bow in her hair. And they're just out enjoying the day together. Here's another one of a little girl. In fact, I put these together because these are the same girl. You've got this girl here, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where they'll frame out the picture in some sort of interesting design. In this case, I don't even know what this is, but it's rounded corners in the straight lines. But you've got this little girl in a bed. She's got that old wallpaper on the wall. She's got her little teddy bear in her hand, and she's got a very interesting hairdo situation. So what it looks like to me is a bunch of her hair has been kind of tied up in these little bows. But you can just see all the little pieces of fabric kind of hanging off here. I wish the condition was better on this on the front. You can see that's definitely torn a little bit. But the fact that I got them together, I'm pretty sure that those will sell no problem. Moving on to this guy. This is going to be an interesting one to really zoom in on. But what I can see from the beginning here is just some old homes. This looks like an old, some sort of a depot, a train station or something, because train tracks are running right through on the outskirts of town, as you can see. You can see a trellised bridge. Way back here in the background, you've got this old buggy right here, cart. Not sure where this is located, and there's no information. If I knew where this was, guys, it'd be a lot easier to sell it and probably faster and for a higher dollar amount. I'll do a little research, see if I can zoom in and see anything that will indicate where it's from, and that'll help me out. Folks, this is just unusual. Never seen a card like this. It's a real photograph of a man. Clearly this was staged. This was done in some sort of a photography studio. You can tell by that background there, but you got this gentleman with a very considerable mustache, and he's eating just what looks to be the most tasty large slice of watermelon that I have seen. He's got his suspenders on, as you can see right here. Got some cool suspenders on, nice little hat. Somebody's going to find a lot of enjoyment out of that card because it's very interesting and unusual. Here we have a military parade of some kind. You got flags, and then you got this right here, which if I zoom in, it says victory, and there's an end right here, it says 1918. And so this is some sort of a parade celebrating, I guess, a victory and the end of World War I. And you've got a bunch of people here coming through this particular monument. And I don't know where this monument is, folks. I'll need to do some research, but when I find out where the location is, that's really going to help me. It's just interesting. A lot of people, clearly, they're celebrating the end of the war. This woman here is feeding, it looks like she's feeding a donkey of some kind. You've got a gigantic flag draped behind her. You got people in the background. Some interesting things going on here. This gentleman's kind of taking a peek. 1908 at least has the date on it, so I can date that thing. I got this because I've had, like I said, real good luck with animals and dogs in particular. Has not been used, but it says Duty Uplands. And I might just look up Duty Uplands dog and see, is this the name of a dog that would belong to someone important, some sort of military official, perhaps a president? I don't know. But I'll find out what, who this belonged to if I can. And again, that will be a good thing for me to put in the title. All right, some lovers here. Let's go pose in an old log together. All right, said the photographer. Here we are, nice picture here of nice oval, just to kind of, make it a little bit more interesting. Someone scribbled some pencil on the back. I could erase that pretty easily, but I just thought it was kind of cute and kind of funny. They're just kind of carrying on there. Whoops. Here we have a nice estate here, and you've got several people standing in there. Unfortunately, we've got a little dot here, and I'm wondering if that's supposed to indicate an individual or if just something happened. But you got a little girl, a woman, a man, a small child, and you've also got another woman with a tiny child in a crib, or like a little bassinet there, or a little kind of walker thing. On the back here, what does it say? Great Grandpa Williams. All right, give one to Bessie, please. It's my great granddad Williams. So this was somebody was doing a little genealogy work and wrote on that to make sure they remembered who that individual was. This one is the Lakeview Avenue of Bow Lake, Stratford, New Hampshire. Okay, so this is another one. I had one earlier, as you remember. If you recall, 1908, from that same lake, Bow Lake in Stratford, New Hampshire. I'll have to put those together probably. That'll enhance the ability to sell. And again, Bow Lake. Oh, look at this. We got another one, Bow Lake. These are just different views in the surrounding area of Bow Lake. That is nice to have. Winding Stream. Where is this winding stream? What's the name of this winding stream? We don't know. We're never gonna know. But it's in winter. It looks kind of a beautiful scene. In the very background here, you can see there's a little fence. So probably just a little low water bridge over there, over this little creek out in winter. It's an interesting shot. And look at this. I got two of them. It's not that often, folks, that these ones that were made by individuals that they sent off to have just a dozen or 20 made, that you'll come across multiples. This is only the second time I've come across multiples of a real picture postcard from the teens or 20s that was interesting enough for me to buy. It was in good enough condition. These are both still in really good condition. You can see on the edges here, it's got that sort of metallic, almost like pencil lead kind of color. Just the way they turned out, it's very interesting. I'll probably put one up until it sells, and then when it sells, I'll wait a week or so and I'll list the other one. Don't want to flood the market with them. This is winter foliage, and this is a nice tree with some houses next to it. And someone was, you know, trying to be real artistic here with the way they drew this out for, you know, during the process of having this made. We don't know where it is. Still a very kind of unusual card. Interesting. Here's a couple of kiddos. This is that same girl, if you'll recall, was playing with the dog earlier. And so these will probably go together. But again, a couple of kiddos. Maybe they're brother and sister. Maybe they're just friends or family friends. Just hanging out together. Here we are. Same shot from before, if you recall. This one is darker, and this one has nothing below it. Isn't that interesting? I also do not come across things like this very often. Someone had really gone to the trouble of trying to dress this up a little bit, whereas this was just the original look of the whole thing. And you notice that it's wider down here. Very interesting, just the differences in the development. I believe that as you develop it over time, the picture gets wider. The first 1 or 2 times that you develop it is going to be the darkest and crispest that you're going to see. Here we got a man and a woman sitting in the same seat at different times, same pose essentially, although he's got his leg up, and just kind of hanging out, and they just stuck them right next to each other. I kind of like that look. It was creative. Here we go, 2 Sacerdos in Airtimam. I don't know what that means, folks, and I'm sure I did not pronounce it correctly. You got this candelabra in the background. You got this gentleman. It looks as though someone is being, like maybe some sort of ceremony. This is like an ordination or a confirmation or something. Someone that has achieved something or in the church of some kind. But I'll have to look up what this. I'll just stick that in Google, you know, Google Translate, and it'll tell me, and I'll probably get a good idea. But I thought that was cool. They commemorated this for that individual. Here's a woman. She's just chilling out in her little swing set. A woman swinging on her own with a bunch of cool plants all up and around her. I paid next to nothing for these guys. It's going to be very easy to get my money back on this. Here's a cool one. I don't love the condition. It seems like it had a little water damage. But it says Mount Moran from Jackson Lake, Wyoming. And it's a beautiful, clear lake you can see with that beautiful mountain in the background. Someone cares about that area. Look at this. It's the third. Let's see if I can pull those out. Here we go. My guess is this was the first one. This was the second one with the dressing up. And this was the third one. And I got them all because I've just never come across it like this. This was a really neat find for me. If any of you guys have any idea as to what the best way for me to sell those would be, I'd be interested. But I thought it was cool to find all of those. Here we are, a man, and you got a big stack, a haystack out here, or some sort of crop of some kind. And this gentleman is on some sort of piece of equipment that he is harvesting this, but he's posed because he's dressed with a suit and tie, and a hat on. So this was a posed shot, but we got the cattle out here, and then there is some sort of mess up in the process of having this thing exposed down here in the center and as well in the top middle. It almost looks like there's some sort of weird alien spaceship coming down there. It's wheat. This in Canada, 1911. That's cool. More shots of snow-laden trees from early 1900s. Here's just a couple of pals hanging out here. Very cool, crisp shot here. You've got, and I also like the way that they kind of framed this in. This is a cool look, in my opinion. Artistic, for sure. Gentleman in a nice suit and the hat. This man looks like maybe he works... he's maybe a conductor or something. Got the suspenders on and a different type of hat. But cool. Not been used. No information about it. Look at this little child. Cutie. I just thought it was a cute photo because the kid's holding on to his foot there. And it's rounded out. Not been used. As far as kids go, he's a cutie, I think. I'm going to say he, maybe a little girl. You can't quite tell sometimes with those newborns, can you? I got this one because it's a very large, looks like a Clydesdale type horse, really large hooves. I'm not sure if it is Clydesdale or not, but it's a very large horse. Someone was very proud of it. They took a picture, no information. At some point, somebody thought this was worth $8. I certainly did not pay that, but I think it's worth $8, $8 to $10, maybe even more than that, just depending. Here's a nice little family kind of sitting down here together. Another nice real picture postcard, rural life in the turn of the century here. We've got, looks like 6 different women involved here. This girl's got some flowers in her hand, gigantic bow or some sort of hat behind her head there. And they're just sitting on the wooden porch, hanging out. No reflection in the mirror. That would have been real cool, wouldn't it? I always try to look for those little nuggets. I love to find little extra tiny things in the backgrounds, on media, on signs. The street views are really fun for that. Here are some gentlemen at the edge of like walking on a pole that swung out over the water. They're probably on a battleship of some kind. These are men in the Navy, and they're down here with these other little ships doing something, some kind of work. This man's hanging from a rope. Maybe going to drop on that when they slide in there. That's a cool military look, probably from the 1930s would be my guess. Early 1940s. Here's some more animals, more farm life. A bunch of sheep here, little lambs, as you can see in the middle. They're just herding them through there. We do have maybe a little information on here if I can read, find out where it's at. July 19th. This is at for Wisconsin, possibly. Not sure. We'll find out. Here we got a bunch of people in against a fence being held back, and something is happening. I'm not sure what. You've got some people over here waiting, but right here what you have is some people who appear to be dressed up. That man's in a fireman's outfit, and he has a hose, and he is spraying water up high, and it makes you wonder, is this some sort of festival, some sort of activity? You got another man who looks like a fireman right here. Or is there something on fire and these people have shown up to watch? Some sort of activity. We do not know what's happening. There's also this strange wall with a ladder. I do not know what's going on. Maybe this is some sort of demonstration or practice for the fire department. I have no idea. All right, another cool card here, folks. This may, okay, you know, so prepare yourself. This is a little gruesome. Okay, now what we're looking at here, folks, is some sort of a catacomb area, some sort of a place. My guess is this is probably in either Italy or Spain or one of those countries. And I'm not familiar enough with these to know which one it is, and it does not say. Well, Italiana. Okay, so this is probably in Italy, probably in Rome or one of those areas where these are all, this is probably underneath of some sort of church, and you've got all of these skulls on the wall and human bones, and you've got full bodies here. And this is a real photograph, folks, someone took while visiting this back in the day when they would have allowed that, I suppose. Very bizarre. I've never come across one like this, so I had to get it. Here's another shot from that same deal that we were looking at. And maybe this is like a 4th of July thing. I don't know. But look at all the people stuck together here, all dressed up. It looks as though maybe there's a fire of some kind over here, possibly. I don't know. But again, you've got these different vantage point. You've got them shooting this water over here, but it just looks like they're shooting it almost out over to at people. I do not know, folks. If anybody has an idea of what this is and what's happening, I'd be very interested. It almost looks like a bunch of cups of water sitting here, or bowls or something. Is this a ceremony? Like, what is happening here? I do not know, but it was fascinating to me. And finally, this photo. I don't really get ones of men and women, just profiles, very often because they don't sell as well. However, this man looks so much like Salvador Dali to me. I just had to show it. Watch this. I'm going to show you a couple of other pictures of Salvador Dali, and then you can determine yourself if this is his doppelganger or not. Whew, that was a lot about postcards. If you're still here, folks, man, thanks so much. You must really care about this category. I do too. Keep a lookout for stamps. Keep a lookout for interest and cancellations, interest in notes, things that are signed by someone who could be famous or well-known. The content's important, and just like any collectible, folks, the better condition ones will sell better than the ones in poor condition. But sometimes content is so good it does not matter. There's a variety of types out there. I'm not the only one making videos about postcards. Check some of the others out. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I know. And if you have advice for me or thoughts on any of these that you saw, please drop me a comment. I would love to hear it, and I'm always trying to learn as well. Get out there and make some money, folks. Good luck to you.